open and shut case, a cautionary tale of drug abuse, a rogue agent gone native. The Home Secretary has testified that drugs destroy the very fabric of society. We'll go further, Home Secretary. Drugs destroy the very fabric of reality. Speaking as a war veteran, I put it to you that the war on drugs has proved entirely counterproductive. I put it to you that the war on drugs is the biggest cock-up in the history of mind control. I shall prosecute my case not with ill-informed prejudice dressed as moral outrage, but with facts, names, places, dates, eyewitness reports. I call the accused, John Crow. Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Exhibit A. I remember exactly when and where David Bowie and I first met. It was in Colwyn Bay on the 23rd of December 1969. And we were tripped out of our brains on mescaline. At least we thought it was mescaline. Could have been acid cut with speed or strychnine. It wasn't as if you could take it down the local chemist and get it analyzed. I had taken the substance in question in the course of my undercover work for the North Wales Drug Squad. Now, before I joined the squad, North Wales didn't have a drug problem as such. Or you had the odd hippies on the wacky-backy up in the hills, the mods in Trill with their mandis, not to mention endemic barbiturate abuse among the bored housewives of Denby, Ruthin, and Mould. Then, Colwyn Bay, 4th July 1969, police raid an exclusive girls' school. 1/4 ounce hashish, 1/2 pound homegrown marijuana, 23 grams amphetamine sulfate, 3 black bombers, 2 purple hearts, miscellaneous uppers and downers, and 7 tabs of acid. Lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD-25, the most powerful hallucinogen known to man. Its psychotropic effects revealed in 1943, the year scientists succeeded in splitting the atom. Dr. Albert Hoffman, research chemist at the Sandoz Laboratory, Switzerland, accidentally ingests a microscopic amount of the drug through his fingertip, is interrupted at his work by unusual sensations. Dr. Hoffman's lab journal, April 19th, 0.25 milligrams, home by bicycle, most severe crisis. The rest is history, recorded in Dr. Hoffman's excellent book, LSD, My Problem Child. And now, in the summer of '69, schoolgirls were taking it, which is why the North Wales Drug Squad was so eager to recruit Agent Davy Jones, 17-year-old kitchen boy in the Little Chef, Llandudno. My assignment was to establish the source of the drug. In the course of my investigations, I befriended a local dealer by the name of Andy Bewley. He led me to a farmhouse in the hills above Mould. It was my first chance to observe hippies, or freaks as they call themselves, at close quarters. They seemed to spend most of their time in their sleeping bags, coughing and spluttering over enormous smoking chillums. Hardly a healthy existence. I couldn't quite see how such people posed such a threat to the future of Western civilization. Now, I had been warned that in order not to blow my cover, I may be forced to sample the deadly drug. My control, Mr. Ronson, had taught me how to palm the pill, how to mimic the acid tripper's catatonic appearance. In the event, I had very little choice. The suspected chemists were taking no chances. Mick made me stick out my tongue, on which Trevor carefully placed a pink tab of strawberry fields. And Andy Bewley said, "Do not adjust your mind. There is a fault in reality. I'm tripped out of my brains. In the field behind the house, Mick and Trevor seem to be building some sort of primitive altar out of breeze blocks. I step into the field. I step into the field, and suddenly time is dead. There's just this one moment, and it's like a doorway. And as I step, 1,000 blades of grass quiver and bend. 1,000 insects scatter, 1,000,000 dancing molecules, as this tiny microcosm of a human step flows into the vastness of this Welsh valley, that blue sky, that dog barking far away. A single integrated event, complete in itself, a moment in eternity. I'm 17 years old, and in this moment I know all there is to know, that all of time exists only for this one small step in space. I say I, but of course in this moment I no longer exist. My first trip, and already I've transcended my ego. I am God. I wanted to go to my head. I can fly, but I'm not going to throw myself out the window. I take the sensible precaution of taking off with my feet planted firmly on the ground. Well, relatively planted at the time, or rather, at the end of time. I'm standing on the breeze block altar. I feel the beak breaking through my face, quills pinpricking my skin. I look at my arms, see feathers fan out. I grow wings and fly. I'm a silver crow, circling the farmhouse, 30, 40 feet up. I look down and see Mick and Trevor in the garden below. I'm looking down at the tops of their heads. The overhead shot is totally authentic. And I hear their voices. The acoustic confirms my position. I hear them exactly as you would hear them flying 20, 30 feet up. I flap down safely on the lawn. I'm grubbing around the garden when I see the cat. Black cat, frozen, fur bristling, poised to strike. My response is pure instinct. I shoot out of the body of the crow and into the cat. But for one nanosecond of primordial terror, I am simultaneously cat and bird, hunter and prey. I shoot back into my own body at the speed of light, shivering and gibbering. When I looked, the cat was dead. Exactly 3 months later, on my second trip in Andy Bewley's kitchen, I was getting results. As a matter of fact, I'd just cracked the girls' school acid case. Under the influence of the mescaline, Andy Bewley had boasted about how he was fucking 7 fifth formers, 7 schoolgirls, 7 tabs. And the trail from his house leads right back to the farmhouse in Mould. My first case, and I've cracked it. Andy Bewley's kitchen is separated from the rest of the bedsit by a plywood partition. The gas fire in the living room roars like a volcano, and the thought occurs, form is a form of intelligence, and I smile. The acid trip is full of profound insights, but it can also slip you pieces of gibberish, psychic debris that repetition renders amusing or significant. Form is a form of intelligence. The trouble is, we're using words to describe an experience that is, by definition, beyond words. As my old Zen master used to say, word only finger, point at moon. The danger is, on the come down, you could mistake the finger for the moon. Andy Bewley hands me a mirror. I look into my big blue eyes. And then I realize, those aren't my eyes. That isn't my face. The eyes are different. One's blue and the other's green. It's David Bowie. What the fuck are you doing in my... Mirror opens into another dimension. The face is floating on a field of stars. The face of a Greek goddess alive. The eyes look straight into mine. The mouth moves. Then one of those weird walks takes place, like at the end of 2001, where the astronaut passes through the Stargate. He sees himself grow old and wither and die, to be reborn as a star child. And what he sees, he becomes. He becomes what he sees. I am Bowie. He is me. We hear ourselves speak. When you and I come together, the earth moves. I come back to Andy Bewley's kitchen with a jolt, with the record still playing. I say, what the fuck is that? And Andy Bewley says, Space Oddity. And I think, no way, man. I know Space Oddity. And whatever that isn't Space Oddity. I look down and I'm holding an album cover. David Bowie's face on a background of blue dots. That was my mirror. And I think, what was it? When you and I come together, the earth moves. Fuck me. Exhibit B. This was, of course, before Bowie came out as bisexual on his celebrated Melody Maker interview, but the androgyny was evident even then. And when you and I come together, it certainly sounded like a come-on. When Andy Bewley asked if I was queer, I played safe, said I thought I probably swung both ways. The truth was that in the last days of that libidinous decade, I was still technically a virgin. Having no experience either way, I was trying to keep an open mind. David Bowie wanted to show me around the church of man love. I was willing to give it a whirl. Even so, even then, I suspected that our coming together might signify something more cosmic, a more alchemical union. LSD had taught me that the mind is not a closed system, but an infinite number of interconnected, interpenetrating energy fields. It was in this sense that I tended to think of David and I coming together. My impressionable young mind had already been warped by the mad, bad, and dangerous ideas of the 60s. I was not alone. In Backstage Passes, the raunchy rollercoaster story of their turbulent 10-year marriage, Bowie's ex-wife, Angie, introduces us to what she terms the much-fabled lance of love, testifying as to its size and staying power. Miss Bowie frankly confesses that she believes she'd married an alien, an entity from another dimension, on a mission to colonize Earth. And David was only too happy to lead us on. He was the first Messiah to prophesy his own coming, an event in which I appeared to be intimately involved. The Man Who Sold the World, released in April 1971, explicitly recalled our face-to-face meeting. By hunky-dory, David had come out as a bisexual alien. The message was uncompromising. The earth is a bitch. Homo sapiens have outgrown their use. I tried not to dwell too much on all of this. I was well aware of the dangers of interpreting pop music under the influence of LSD. I didn't want to end up like the Manson girls who got a message from the Beatles telling them to murder Sharon Tate. I tried to keep it in perspective, to put it all down to some bad acid. I had stared at that picture on the album cover and my drug-ravaged brain had somehow contrived to breathe life into the image, a portrait in flesh. I told myself that my Bowie fixation, this cosmic twin dual personality syndrome, was a displacement anxiety, a way of coping with the stress of my own double life. All this time I was walking, talking, even thinking like an acid head. I was in fact working undercover for the North Wales Drug Squad. I would rendezvous with Mr. Ronson, my control, in the Ponderosa, a biker's camp on top of the Horseshoe Pass. I gave him all the gem on the acid lab, Trevor and Mick, Andy Bewley. I didn't tell him about David and I. As far as I could see, it was none of his business. In the summer of 1971, my work took me to Glastonbury, to the Glastonbury Festival. I went out with the Welsh hippies. Trevor and Mick had about 20,000 tabs of acid they were planning to distribute at various festivals that summer. I can confirm that their acid was directly responsible for the mass hallucination that occurred on the afternoon of the third day, when 2 suns appeared in the sky and were seen by more than 10,000 trippers. Each tripper identified the vision and interpreted it according to their own deranged belief system. I personally saw it as a portent, the shape of things to come that very night, the coming of the Lightbringer. I'd staked out a prime patch of land in front of the pyramidal stage and was thus in an ideal position to take off all my clothes and offer myself to the alien deity. I was certainly prepared to go backstage, if called upon to do so from the stage, to consummate our union. Unfortunately, David came on very late. I don't know if you know that state where you're coming down from a trip, too overloaded to take anything else in, a kind of hypnagogic trance. I'm lying there in my sleeping bag on the dry mud in front of the stage, dimly aware that the man in my life is only 50 feet away, and he's singing our song. Face to face with the man. I fell asleep. My friends, the hippies, went on to the Reading Festival. Not a good move. Trevor and Mick got busted at the station with 10,000 tabs of acid. I hitched back up to Wales to find the whole place crawling with police. I allowed myself to be arrested as instructed. I'd been told that in the unlikely event of my being busted, I was to make no attempt to identify myself. Mr. Ronson had explained that this was for my own protection. Even in those days, the North Wales Drug Squad was riddled with informers and double agents. I was taken into custody and allowed a call to my solicitor. I tried to call Mr. Ronson, but the phone was permanently engaged. I had a nasty feeling the phone was off the hook. I spent the night in the cells, disturbed by the thought that Mr. Ronson could, if he so wished, simply leave me there to rot. I had no way of proving who I really was. So you can imagine my relief when a big, bulky, bearded man barrels into my cell. American. David Robert Jones? Anton, I'm your solicitor. Anton leads me out to where a stretched limo is parked at the back of the police station. Turns into a chauffeur. We drive in silence, picking up the A5 just south of Wrexham. I say, "Where's Mr. Ronson?" Anton's eyes clock mine in the rear view mirror. "It's all been taken care of. They've changed your name. Crow. Your name is Crow. John Crow." So, I was John Crow. I had no idea who Anton was, or where he was driving me, or why. I was the passenger. By the time we arrived in Cambridge, the light was fading, but the night was warm and heady with the scent of honeysuckle. I caught a glimpse of the medieval colleges and wondered if my next assignment would be to infiltrate those student drug orgies I'd read so much about. Anton dropped me off outside an unprepossessing house on Mill Road. The door opened and a man appeared. A man with a cane and a Panama hat. Commissioner Burrows, tall and thin, with cold grey eyes, a narrow, twisted smile, and a voice of inflexible authority. "Oh, thanks for coming, Mr. Crow. Good to have you aboard. You have by now no doubt deduced that you have been selected for a special assignment. Inspector K. West is your control. As of now, you report only to him. For security reasons, only Anton, my driver, and myself are reliably informed as to your former identity, and we do not intend to divulge this information to anyone, not even to this venerable gentleman. Mr. Crow, may I present Sir Henry Harfine, Professor of Egyptology, Trinity College." Harmless old fruit. "Now, Mr. Crow, if you would be so good as to listen to this music and give us your reaction." There it is again. And you and I. How could they know? I I never told anyone. How can it be on the record? Oh my God, it's me. My drug-damaged brain. That isn't Space Oddity, it's probably panpipes or Mozart or Mantovani. That's what this debriefing is all about. They're trying to determine the extent of the damage. Okay, calm down. Want a reaction? Give them something. Don't give them knowledge of the man. Does sound vaguely familiar. Something about the moon landing? Well, either that or another fucking song about LSD. The Commissioner puckers his lips as if he sucked on a lemon. Hands me a knife, a long-handled hunting knife. I think, stop playing games. I say, it's a Bowie knife. Thank you, Mr. Crow. Oh, don't trouble yourself, Sir Henry. Mr. Crow will see me out. You'll be living here, Crow, 23 Mill Road. Just down there is our Juna. Macrobiotics. You are what you eat, and take it from me, you're going to need all the health food you can stomach. Listen, watch out for Kay West. He knows about the face in the mirror. And stay away from dead cats. They end in green goo. Listen, kick the Kay West drug, kick. He is systematically poisoning the hallucinogen drugs. Good luck, Crow. With your help, we can occupy the studio and wipe the record clean. Stretch limo glides up alongside us. Door opens, Commissioner gets in. Door closes, car glides away, leaving me wondering what the fuck I'm getting into. Inspector West, he never asked me to call him K, was a man impossible to describe as we never met face to face. But I can still hear his voice, flat, toneless, utterly devoid of emotion.
Well, Mr. Crow, Kay West, your control speaking. I'm here to put you in the picture. The big picture, Mr. Crow. How the CIA secretly tested LSD as a chemical weapon. How they employed prostitutes to spike the drinks of unsuspecting punters while they watched from behind two-way mirrors. Oh yes, you know all about two-way mirrors, don't you, Mr. Crow? The big picture, Mr. Crow. How certain rogue elements deliberately conspired to create a drugs problem. A force within the force, using the war on drugs as a cover. For what? What's the hidden agenda? Eh, Mr. Crow? It's your job to find out. Over and out.
Privately, I was unconvinced. It seemed to me that by painting the big picture in black and white, the inspector was evading the extent to which we were all implicated. He painted over the messy grey areas, but that was precisely where agents like myself were expected to operate. The Welsh hippies, Mick, Trevor, Andy Bewley, I'd become their friend in order to betray them. Question was, who was I primed to hit next? Well, on the face of it, Kay West was the obvious target. The Commissioner had evidently installed me as some sort of double agent. But Kay West was my control. I reported only to him. The big picture. My initiation into the next frame was entrusted to Sir Henry Half-Eyed, the fruity Cambridge Don, with a penchant for young boys dressed as Greek gods. All wine, do I? The plain truth is, the war will be won and lost in the third world. What? Golden Triangle? Oh, you dear, sweet, innocent child. No, no, no. The third world to which I refer is that posited by Popper. Sir Karl Popper's third world. The world of objective contents of thoughts. The ancients, dear boy, the Egyptians, they believed that everything we think is recorded on the astral plane, the Akashic records. These Akashic records can be read, and the secrets of men's souls laid bare. Or they can be replayed, revived. Oh yes, on the astral, our thoughts take on a life of their own. My dear, you should see some of mine. Now, I can tell you're wondering what all this has got to do with the war on drugs. Well, you have to remember, the war is only a cover. We are now addressing the hidden agenda. Well, don't you see, dear boy? It's obvious. They are using psychedelic drugs to colonize the astral plane. It occurred to me that Sir Henry himself had been doing some pretty weird drugs. I'd already heard about his prodigious appetite for satsumas soaked in amyl nitrate. Sir Henry Harfide was an expert in psychosexual warfare. He was delighted to hear about my flight in the body of a crow and encouraged me to develop what he termed transference techniques, the art of projecting one's astral body into other life forms. He explained that astral travel is a technique that can be taught. Females do it every night in their dreams. Males generally find it easier to leave their bodies during the act of anal intercourse. Sir Henry was eager to demonstrate this. I definitely rebuffed his advances, but always with good grace. I didn't care not to hurt an old man's feelings, making it clear that when the time was ripe, I was prepared to use my sex as a weapon, to fight the evil against which we were pitted. And all this time I was conducting a private investigation. I'd begun to suspect that David Bowie was himself an agent like me, doubtless operating in this third world where Sir Henry believed the war would be won and lost. The question was, which side was he on? Okay, I admit I was a bit paranoid, but as we used to say back in the 70s, just because you're paranoid, it doesn't mean they're not out to get you. And David Bowie was about to hand me the next piece of the big picture. He called it The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Remember? David in his little booties and jumpsuit. Did you know he was born David Jones, same as me? Changed his name in '69. And look, if you look closely, you can see he's rising up, levitating. But look at the sign above the door. Quest! Quest, man, it's a quest, right? Wrong. K. West. In the course of my private investigation, it became clear how little I knew about David Bowie. I completely missed out on his Tony Newley period. His Laughing Gnome, his Beckenham Arts Lab, his training as a mime with Lindsay Kemp. They meant nothing to me. Having at last got hold of some hard evidence, I proceeded to investigate my other half with renewed vigour. For the concert at Birmingham Town Hall, I took a seat in the dress circle overlooking the stage where I could observe him at close quarters. The girl sat next to me, a chip-shot blonde with big cherry-red lips, kept staring at me. She said, "Yeah, I don't half look a lot like him." That night, I finally succeeded in losing my virginity to Angie, the blonde, brummy bombshell. And when we came together, the earth did move. A bit, though not as much as I imagined it would with David and I. Angie, we got married in the summer of '72, our summer of love. I was pleased to see that my wife also swung both ways. Angie encouraged my identification with David. She even cut and hennaed my hair to look like his. It couldn't last. By the time he released Aladdin Sane, she'd come to the conclusion I was just another boring clone. Which wasn't strictly true. I wanted to set her straight. Well, no, actually, Angie, I'm an undercover agent primed to achieve some sort of mystic union with your Aladdin Sane. This is part of my cover. My boringness is deliberate. By pin-ups, our marriage was over. She'd fallen in love with a Lou Reed look-alike. I suppose in a way Angie was doing me a favour, forcing me to confront the extent to which the space invader had colonised my own life. We looked alike. We were born with the same name. His life as a pop star seemed to mirror mine as a plainclothes police officer. I was disturbed by the thought we could be dealing with a Dorian Gray scenario, a picture of David Bowie. Of course, by now, I wasn't the only one. The Earls Court concert in 79, dates are going, 73. The Earls Court concert in 73 was packed with Ziggy clones and Aladdin saints. I don't know, I felt somehow cheated. What if Angie was right? What if, instead of being David's other half, as it always seemed to imply, I was merely another one of the clones? What if he'd cut this same deal with everyone? Everyone who'd ever listened to a David Bowie record had received the same message. When you and I come together, the earth moves. I remember standing outside Earls Court, saying to myself, well, saying to him really, because I could see him in my mind's eye, backstage in his dressing room. David, I said, this is it. If you want it, for God's sake, just speak up. During the concert, preferably. It's now or never. So I traipsed into the cavernous exhibition hall. This was the concert, you may recall, where David was into high camp fashion. He'd come on in these fabulous Japanese cloaks, and two ladies, I think they were Japanese too, would run on and rip them off him, stripping him down to his little sequin jockstrap. Unfortunately, from where I was sitting, he was about that big. This was before the introduction of giant video screens. I couldn't even see his face, let alone the fabled glance of love. And the sound level was fucked, you couldn't hear him. I mean, let's be honest, I was never totally deluded. I didn't seriously expect him to invite me up on stage to have live sex that would make the earth move for 5,000 people. But, well, after all the hype, I don't know, maybe I expected a miracle, that he'd fill Earls Court with interstellar sound, put his ray gun to our heads, make us all come together. He'd broken the cardinal rule of the drugs deal. He'd failed to deliver. I've been fighting the war on drugs for 5 years. All that had changed were the drugs. The drugs got dirtier. Microdots cut with speed, and strychnine gave you electric trips with electric wires snaking up from the streets into the houses. They get under your skin, down to the roots of your teeth, until you feel your own grinning skull, sparking and sputtering. One night, I saw the whole city in ruins, and a fungus, mushrooms furring the rubble in a series of time-lapse photographs. The Commissioner's words echo in my brain. He is systematically poisoning the hallucinogen drugs. And I think, if we really did set out to create a drug problem, we're doing a fucking good job. Message from Control. K West. Final briefing.
Close. Trying to do the job you were trained for. No questions just to handle it, you can't handle it. Enclose one-way plane ticket to Berlin, plus something to study or immediate expenses. On arrival in Berlin, you have to proceed to Das Spundlock, a German bar in Neukölln. The barman will relay further orders overnight.
Willkommen. Bienvenue, welcome to the Spundlock. I am Fame, your barman. So, you're one of Fräulein West's girls, nah? Her latest sweet thing? Well, I don't know what she's been telling you, darling. Perhaps you imagine some jewel of Berlin decadence, or lesbians with riding crops. Well, such clubs do exist in Berlin. It's all Lampa, but not, as you can see, Das Spundlock. Das Spundlock is German for the bunghole. And you will soon see it is your holes they all want to bung. It's not so bad. You do 3 routines. Teach me tiger, je t'aime, kung fu fighting. 2 strips, 1 live show, you and me. Oh, don't look so excited, darling. It's only simulated. On a certain but unspecified night, a punter will approach you and request that you dance to Sweet Thing, thereby identifying himself as the target, the big player in the big picture. Your job is to take him out of the picture. That's all they tell me. Now, yeah, you know these Cambridge fairies, how they love their little secrets. Oh, but Fräulein West, what a queen. Who knows? Maybe the big player is going to get up on stage and fuck your little brains out. And I get that sinking feeling. I know who it is. I've been set up. I'm cast as the queen bitch, always on heat for the diamond dog to come and impale her sweet thing on the lance of love. The stage is set for David and I to finally come together. In 5 years, I've come a long way from greasing the griddle in the little chef like Dudley. Call me old-fashioned, but I really don't see how me working as a stripper come rent boy is helping to win the war on drugs. Night after night, I had to fight my way out of the club, spraying mace in the eyes of the frisky old boys. Night after night, the same tired routines as the days turned to weeks, months. It was beginning to look as if, once again, David Bowie had stood me up. I felt abandoned, washed up in West Berlin. My mission had lost all meaning. I dropped my last tab of window pane acid, go walkabout in the Tiergarten, end up against the wall, scribbling in my notebook, my report from the front line, last words from no man's land. I'm suffering an overdose of significance. Everywhere I look, I see signs and symbols, graffitied on the wall or scribbled in cherry red neon on Kudan. A black crow, dead, feathers strewn on the pavement. I feel like a character in someone else's movie. Drop a couple of quaaludes just to even out the jag. Check in to perform my nightly routine at the Spuntlock. I somehow managed to get through kung fu fighting without falling over or kicking fame. So now I'm standing at the bar and yet another sad old boy wants to buy me a drink, and I finally snap. Fame, play it. Sweet thing. Are you out of your tiny little mind? Only the big player can request sweet thing. Oh, play it, Fame. We've waited long enough. It's time. But what will Fräulein West say? Oh, bugger the inspector. Play it. Sweet thing. What the fuck is this? I said sweet thing. David Bowie, not some Nazi disco cover version. Oh, fuck it. Cambridge double-crossed you. K. West is an alien. He set up this whole sleazy freak show just to bring you boys together. And we all know what happens when you and Agent Bowie come together. The Earth moves. The Earth moves into another dimension, a parallel universe. Just hunky-dory for an alien life form. He's already staked his claim. He's all set to colonize his little piece of paradise. He aims to build a condominium. You boys here provide transportation. When you boys come, K West he go, up, up and away. As for us poor suckers stuck down here, take it from me, Crow, when the Earth moves, there won't be a down here. It's curtains, lights out, the age of fire, the Kali Yuga, apocalypse. Let's get this straight, Commissioner. You're saying that if David Bowie and I have sex, it'll be the end of the world? That's about the size of it. When you boys come, oh, you will, Crow, turn you boys loose in a hotel room, all hell is gonna break loose. K. West is counting on it. But you called his bluff. He's not ready to move. Bowie's not due in Berlin until Friday. Good work, Crow. Now let's get the hell out of here. Silence in court! May I remind you, Mr. Crow, that you are still under oath. The court does not wish to hear about your sexual peccadillos. Kindly proceed with your testimony. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I make no apology for my unconventional approach to public speaking. But may I remind you, Commissioner, you yourself warned me, our only hope of justice is to occupy the studio, to hijack this show trial with an act of total theatre. Put yourself in my place, Home Secretary. You set out as an idealistic young copper, eager to wage war on drugs, only to discover that you are, in fact, one half of an alien sex god. And that when you and your other half, a certain celebrated but not to say notorious rock star, come together, the Earth moves into another dimension. You subsequently discover that such a consummation is being actively promoted and stage managed by your own superiors, certain high-ranking police officers whose experiments with LSD have led them to believe that they can colonize the astral plane. As far as you can determine, this force within the force is controlled and manipulated by an alien intelligence, to whom you are merely a convenient form of transportation to another universe. The alien is counting on you and David Bowie to come up with the energy required for such a multi-dimensional warp, to come together in an orgasm of truly cosmic proportions. Take it from me, Home Secretary, I'd had it up to here. When we were safely on the plane to Tokyo, the Commissioner asked me to give him a full report. He provided us both with false papers. I was traveling as John Isis, which I thought was a bit over the top, but the Commissioner intimated that the name might afford me some much-needed magical protection. Even so, he persisted in calling me Crow. Force of habit, I suppose, but a dead giveaway to any enemy agent who might be eavesdropping. I smiled to myself, relieved to know that he too made mistakes. He was human. So, as the other passengers put on headphones to watch the in-flight movie, I told the Commissioner everything, the face in the mirror, K. West, the works. He listened with eyes closed. Then, puckering his lips, which song was that? Oh, yeah, Space Oddity. We knew something big had gone down that night. Entire astral plane lit up like a Christmas tree. We had to bust that fellow in Colwyn Bay, what's his name? Andy Bewley, to get hold of the record in question. Spectronomic analysis reveals that the message when you and I come together was encoded in the grooves. You mean it's there, physically, inscribed in vinyl? And Andy's is the only copy? Precisely, Crow. Andy's copy is unique. It was there all along, I didn't imagine it. Thank God, Commissioner, I thought I was going mad. I'm afraid it's not quite that simple. One, there were other people in the room, and you were the only one who decoded the message. Two, the message was encoded on the record, but not at the time your friend purchased it. What? The material was encrypted on the 23rd December 1969. You were effectively the recording equipment. Inspector West let the cat out of the bag when he carelessly referred to you as the recorder. It gets worse. Seems the encrypted material was produced by 2 waves, 2 transmissions, both traced to Trident Studios, Wardour Street. First dated December 1969, the second April 1971. The second message was transmitted 16 months after you received it. 2 messages, one from the past, one from the future. He was using the ghost wave. The second message came from the dead cat universe. Ghost wave? Dead cat? Hang on, Commissioner, you're going too fast for me. It's not your problem, Crow. You've played your part. Last night in the Spundlock, you threw all his plans into chaos. He's running out of time. Time for us to move into space. Commissioner, what exactly is a dead cat universe? Forget it, Crow. You don't need to know. We're taking you out of the big picture. Honorable discharge. I settled back to watch the rest of the in-flight movie. It was Nick Rhodes, the man who fell to Earth, in which Bowie plays an alien. The channel was jammed, so I had to watch it in Japanese. If David had slipped in any subliminal messages aimed at yours truly, they'd have been dubbed over. But one detail caught my eye. In the film, Bowie's alien has a chauffeur named Arthur, a bearded chauffeur, and I flashed on Anton, the Commissioner's chauffeur, Anton, who drove me to Cambridge. In the film, Arthur double-crosses Bowie's alien, delivering him to his enemies, who proceed to get him hooked on hooch, thereby aborting his mission to save his own planet. I made a mental note. Welcome to Tokyo. From here we take the Shinkansen bullet train to Kyoto, then north to Obama, on the Sea of Japan. Ho-Shinji Temple. You'll be safe here. Stay as long as you like. Clean out all the crap. The Zen master, the Roshi here, is an old friend of mine. Commissioner Bono. Aisi-san. Welcome to Ho-Shinji. This temple always open to gaijin. Gaijin, foreigner, one who not know the rule. You know Jack? Jack Kerouac? Ah, oh, Jack, what a guy. What's your problem, Aisi-san? Let him come, let him go. You try to resist, you attach to him. You attach too much to your David Bowie. I spent a year there, sitting staring at a white wall, following my breath, in, out, in, out. Of course, I couldn't get him out of my head that easily. He continued to disturb my zazen. Snatches of his old numbers, endlessly recycling in inane loops. I finally went to see the Roshi to confess that I wasn't really cut out to be a monk. I waited politely for him to finish laughing. You think zazen is sit staring at white wall? No. You're David Bowie. That is your zazen. Koan. Zen riddle. Sound of one hand clapping. Now, I give you koan. They ask Bodhidharma, what is the most valuable thing in the universe? Bodhidharma answer, the smell of a dead cat. Now, the thing about your koan is there isn't a right answer. It's not like university challenge. ISIS, Cambridge. In ancient Japan, the dead cat was... No. The whole point of a koan, if that isn't a contradiction in terms, is to occupy the rational mind, to liberate it from its frantic attempts to get a grip on itself. Enlightenment comes in a flash. The Roshi told me to meditate on my koan in moments of crisis. Chinese character, crisis, opportunity, same. And with that, he sent me into the world. 3 months later, I met my second wife, Michiko, at the Kabuki Theatre in Kyoto. She was staring at me during the performance, and afterwards she said, "You know who you look like?" "Who?" I said, my heart sinking. "Gabi Galita." She punctured my vanity. She liberated my self-image. We got married and lived in a little village near Kyoto in a bamboo house with tatami mat floors. Mishi studied flower arrangement and the tea ceremony. I frequented the Zen temples of Kyoto, trying to figure out what was so valuable about the smell of a dead cat. I wrote my first haiku. 2 dogs fucking under the flowering plum tree. Okay, it was an irregular haiku. We seemed to live a charmed existence, although looking back, there was always the niggling doubt, the fear that it was too perfect, too good to be true. You see, surveying the previous 7 years, I couldn't be sure that any of it was real, that it wasn't all a hallucination caused by David Bowie and the ghost wave. One day, Mishi brought home The Lodger, replete with secret codes and ciphers. On the 3rd track, Move On, he claims to have spent time in Kyoto. There's even a reference to tatami mats, the matted ground. It's as if he wants me to know, I can run, but I can't hide. Wherever I go, even to the other side of the world, he'll be there, waiting. This was, of course, before David came out as straight in his Time magazine interview. But his heterosexuality was evident even then. I, too, had long since ceased to swing both ways. Face it, David, darling. The danger of us boys destroying the world by virtue of our overactive libidos is, like our hairlines, definitely receding. The man in black was waiting for me on the path through the rice fields, where I often walked of an evening. His bulky form immediately identified him as a gaijin. Man with a beard! Anton! Anton's eyes betray not a flicker of recognition. He hands me a key. One day this might be exactly what I'm looking for. I look down and see that it's an English house key. The Japanese keys are a different design. I look up and Anton is gone, vanished in the twilight. I thought I must have hallucinated him, but that evening our neighbour paid us a visit, anxiously inquiring about the gaijin with a beard. When I denied all knowledge of him, the woman smiled, clearly troubled. He say, he your friend, I see-san. He said he'd come back. Oh, fuck. The in-flight movie. Arthur. Anton has gone over to the other side. I know I have to get out quick. I don't know how or why, but Kay West has tracked me down. I scribbled a forgive me note to Mishi. No explanations. How can I explain? Dear Mishi, sometimes I feel the need to move on. And I pack a bag, and I move on. I move on. Tyson Reed Hotel, backing onto Rama 4, the 6-lane highway rips through the heart of Bangkok. The sign above the desk reads, term cash. The Chinese desk clerk speaks from behind a wire grill. What do you want? One room? One girl? Boy? Fucky? One dog? Diamond dog. Very nice. Smoke opium. Thai stick. Chase dragon. Passport. ID. Student. Ah, now we're talking. The Chinese desk clerk provides a perfect forgery. I chose the name John Constable in honor of the honest copper I once set out to do. As of now, my perfect cover is effectively blown. The Commissioner has called on John Crow to testify in his own defense. I have frankly admitted my own part in the creation of the drug problem. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I shall now reveal the hidden agenda, that for which, in the words of Sir Henry Halfhide, the war is only a cover, that for which... Oh no, not again. Anton is standing on the path through the rice fields, his hand outstretched. I look down and I'm still holding the key, the English house key. I say, I think this might be exactly what you're looking for. Oh, fuck. A flashback. I find myself, I'm in someone else's body. Not one of my old familiars, a cat or a crow. Can't really get a fix on what sort of body I'm in. It's evidently human, apparently female, but has no other distinguishing characteristics. I feel like a tied-up sack. Anton is leading me through a vast throng of people. I can't see their faces, my sound and vision are blurred. But they all seem somehow familiar, people from my past. They're all smiling at me, so I think, well, I must have done something right. I look up and see that I'm being led towards an altar, a primitive altar built of breeze blocks, and the high priest is wearing some sort of bird mask, a crow. I'm dressed all in white, I'm going to be sacrificed. And then, like on a plane when your ears suddenly pop, the sound of the priest's voice.
Do you, David Robert Jones, alias John Crow, alias Isis, alias Constable, take this man, David Robert Jones, alias Bowie, to be your lawful wedded husband.
As my vision snaps into focus, and I finally get the picture. The big picture, I see it. I smell it. I smell a dead cat. I open my mouth to scream, tell them, no, it's all a bad dream. I did too many drugs and now I'm paying the price. Stop the ceremony. Don't you see? I'm David Bowie's other half. When we come together, the earth moves. Don't you know what that means, you fools? It's curtains, lights out, the age of fire, the Kali Yuga, apocalypse. I open my mouth. I hear myself say, I do. The hotel room. The honeymoon suite. The bed is strewn with magnolia flowers, my favorite flower, but I can't smell them. The air is thick with the reek of rotting fur, the suffocating stench of dead cat. David cracks open the champagne, starts to undress. He He's so sweet. He's trying to act casual, but I can see he's really nervous. It's our first time, you see. Well, we've both lived colourful lives, but we wanted to make it special. Now here he is, the very image of the handsome young groom. He's stripped down to his vest and boxer shorts. Even in his 40s, he still has a wonderful physique. He's filled out a bit, but I think it suits him much better than that, much sexier than that anorexic freak on the Aladdin Sane album. And he's all mine. For a moment, a split second, I flash on that other David, the alien sex god with stars in his eyes and lightning spiking his hair. I admit, for one mad moment, I'm tempted to say, oh, fuck it, let's just do it, here and now. Come together in one earth-shattering orgasm. Take out the fucking universe. Let it all come down. What the fuck is that in my hands? So what if we are just the puppets of some alien intelligence? For God's sake, man. For the Commissioner. The Roshi. For Angie and Mishi. For the future of humanity. Resist. Fight. End it. I take a deep breath. Listen, David. There's something I think you ought to know. And I tell him everything. The face in the mirror, sweet thing in the Sputlock, how K West is an alien and we're just here to provide his transportation to the dead cat universe. I don't know, David, maybe you're in on this. Maybe you're behind it, maybe you're the alien. But David, if you have any shred of humanity left in you, stop. Listen, I know. Life's a bitch. We betray our dreams. We get stitched up by our own petty crimes. And yes, we all sometimes yearn to escape to another world of lightbringers, starmen, supermen. But even here on this godforsaken planet, even if life as we know it is no more than the charred remains of someone else's Big Bang, even then, David, he's not even listening. Just married and he's reading the newspaper. It's as if I'm not even here. And then the thought occurs, but I'm not. And neither is he. Because we didn't do it. If we had done it, we would have crossed over to the dead cat universe and all this would have been real and true, but thank God we didn't. So it isn't. Wake up. You think you're the only creep who thinks he's had tantric sex with David Bowie? You think he wrote those songs for you? He doesn't even know you exist. And even as I think it, a great wind blows through the hotel room, scattering petals and fur, blowing away the smell of dead cat, blowing away K West and the hotel room, the bed. David Bowie himself is gone beyond the reach of K West and his Ziggy wannabes, gone back to a private life of which I know and seek to know no more. In the words of the Heart Sutra, gone beyond, gone altogether beyond, gone over to the other shore. Oh, what an awakening. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my witness. As an undercover agent, Mr. Crow invents fictions to get at the facts. He tells lies in order to reveal the unspeakable truth. He has testified that the so-called war on drugs is a cover for crimes against humanity committed by an alien life form. Now, you may choose to dismiss his testimony as the ravings of a drug-damaged brain. Mr. Crow still bears the scars of 25 years active service. But you will concede that he does appear to know what he's talking about and to be making some sort of sense of it. The material relating to Mr. Bowie is entirely fictitious, employed purely to illustrate certain principles of quantum physics. The CIA's involvement in the creation of the drug problem is, however, a matter of fact. I put it to you that John Crow was framed, and that when you consider the evidence, you will pass your verdict on the real war criminals. You, Home Secretary, are an accessory after the fact. I'm not here to judge your motives, but if you take my advice, a little less hysteria. When it comes to drugs, let's try to be rational. Do we intend to spend eternity strapped up to a primitive life support machine? We stay here on Earth, we're stuck in an evolutionary cul-de-sac. Our future is in space, space migration. Not as we are with our bones and body mass that are totally useless out there in space, but as we shall become. The astral body is ideally suited to space travel. Your generation will never live to see that great evolutionary step you once believed yourselves to be. That is your tragedy. And your children and your children's children, they'll all live and die here. Their bodies will grow old and obey the force of gravity and never know why. But one day their great-great-great-great-grandchildren will embark on the next great adventure. We are the bridge to that new species that one day leaves Earth forever. Our return to the stars.
You alright? check it out. Here around on Sunday. Who do you know in Brighton? Do you know nice people there? I have friends in
I know a lot of people that went to Sussex University and liked it so much they stayed there. No, I'm going to...